Melalui objektivitas, serta pemikiran yang kritis dan terbuka, sains membawa jawaban melalui kerangka kerjasama agar ilmu pengetahuan dapat tersebar luas dan terus bermanfaat bagi masyarakat, baik kini maupun nanti. Menjawab kebutuhan lokal dan nasional, Indonesia dan Prancis bahu-membahu mengupayakan riset tanpa menggabaikan keunikan masing-masing. Kerjasama bilateral yang melibatkan 3.500 peneliti Melalui objektivitas, serta pemikiran yang kritis dan terbuka, sains membawa jawaban melalui kerangka kerjasama agar ilmu pengetahuan dapat tersebar luas dan terus bermanfaat bagi masyarakat, baik kini maupun nanti. Menjawab kebutuhan lokal dan nasional, Indonesia dan Prancis bahu-membahu mengupayakan riset tanpa menggabaikan keunikan masing-masing. Kerjasama bilateral yang melibatkan 3.500 peneliti serta 300 proyek tiap tahunnya menjadi bukti kinerja dinamis Kantor Kerjasama Ilmiah dan Teknologi yang dinaungi oleh Kedutaan Besar Prancis di Indonesia. Kami siap mendukung Anda dan proyek Anda melalui 3 pilar, lewat jejaring, pembiayaan, dan peningkatan nilai. Di garda depan kesepakatan kerjasama, kami memegang peranan kunci dalam memastikan kontribusi Prancis terhadap pembangunan ilmiah berkelanjutan di Indonesia, bersama dengan pemangku kepentingan internasional lainnya. Melalui pendekatan yang disesuaikan menurut kebutuhan Anda, kami akan memfasilitasi relasi dengan berbagai pihak. Begitu terhubung, Anda dapat mengakses rangkaian program pembiayaan yang didesain khusus untuk memudahkan dan mengembangkan kerjasama. Program Science and Impact, Nusantara, dan Joint Funding Scheme akan melengkapi pengalaman kolaborasi Indonesia-Prancis Anda, baik lewat mobilitas jangka pendek maupun panjang, pelatihan, serta kesempatan program doktoral dan postdoc jangka panjang. Berikut kelengkapannya. Manfaatkan seluruh acara dan program kami yang secara lokal dan nasional telah terajut di 2 negara. Berkenalanlah dengan duta muda sains kami yang telah memperkenalkan riset mereka di luar negeri. Bagikan pengetahuan dan antusiasme Anda tentang sains dalam kehidupan sehari-hari bersama anak-anak Indonesia. Persatuan jadi lebih kaya dalam perbedaan. Karena itu, kami yakin Anda akan menikmati kolaborasi bersama peneliti Indonesia dan Prancis. Bergabunglah dalam keluarga besar kami. Ikuti terus kegiatan offline dan online kami. Silakan cek juga buku kerjasama ilmiah. Karena ada begitu banyak jalan bagi kita untuk terhubung satu sama lain.
Bonjour à tous. On est entre nous, j'imagine.
Bonjour. Bonjour Stéphane.
Je ne sais pas.
Bonjour Thierry.
Salut Thierry. Ça va Serge?
Ça va très bien, très très bien.
Tu es à Bangkok?
Oui, oui, oui. Donc ça va, pour l'instant ça va. Et la situation à Jakarta, ça va?
Ça ne va pas en s'arrangeant vraiment,
Ouais,
donc c'est pas, l'ambiance n'est pas très bonne.
ouais, ouais,
Parce que les gens n'en voient pas le bout. Bon, et
ouais.
on n'a pas beaucoup de raisons d'espérer.
Ouais, je pense que l'année 2021, elle va être, ça va pas être ça, quoi. Surtout quand on voit là, on était en train de regarder avec Christine, de regarder un peu aussi les données sur les taux de vaccination, quoi, comment ils vont être atteints, quoi. Je ne sais pas si vous avez vu, c'était dans le Times Intelligence Service. Ils ont fait en fait une cartographie, quoi, mondiale, quoi, de quand on aura atteint la couverture vaccinale dans chacun des pays, quoi. C'est pas encourageant.
Non, en plus, ce qui est formidable, c'est quand même, on est sur des vaccins qui marchent qu'à moitié et sur des injections qu'il va falloir renouveler. Donc, tu auras à commencer de penser au début de la première campagne de vaccination. Il faudra en vacciner les premiers.
Ah ouais, non, c'est quelque chose, quoi. Alors surtout, hier, je faisais un cours pour les étudiants de master intérim sur la modélisation, enfin phylogénie, modélisation. Alors, je me suis levé assez tôt pour reprendre finalement toutes les données Covid, quoi. Et donc, les dernières estimations R0, quoi, c'était autour de 4,5, quoi, 4,5, quoi. Ce qui veut dire que quand on refait dans les modèles calculés, quoi, il faut atteindre, pour que ce soit, il faut qu'on ait la herd community, comme ils disent, quoi, donc l'immunité de groupe, il faut qu'on atteigne presque 90% de la population.
Oh, bah, c'est gagné, on a donné. Non, mais si tu veux, moi, ce qui me gêne avec cette histoire de vaccin, c'est que ça diffère nos ajustements sociétaux. C'est-à-dire que tout le monde est dans une espèce de part de rêve absurde et on
Ouais,
perd du temps.
tout à
C'est-à-dire
fait.
que, bon, bien sûr, les vaccins, il faut y aller, et puis voilà, mais ce n'est pas une solution globale.
Non.
Et malheureusement, c'est un peu perçu comme ça aujourd'hui. Et les politiques jouent là-dessus, et ça, c'est ennuyeux.
Et en France, c'est pareil, voilà. Moi, chaque fois que le matin, quand je regarde les nouvelles de la France, c'est une catastrophe aussi, quoi. De mes collègues, des amis, de la famille. Il y a un état d'esprit, enfin, c'est affreux, quoi.
Oui, non, c'est horrible.
Ouais.
Alors tiens, je vois qu'on a un petit mot d'Edmond, on va lui mettre ça.
Ok.
Et là, on est un peu dans un creux de la vague psychologique.
Ouais.
Alors, en même temps, c'est bien si ça fait réagir un peu et qu'on se dit que c'est pas tenable comme ça, qu'il faut faire quelque chose, qu'il faut penser les choses autrement. Si ça peut aider à ça.
Ouais. Il faudrait quoi. Il faudrait vraiment quoi. C'est-à-dire de penser que là, de toute façon, tel que c'est parti, on peut pas atteindre avant 2022, voire début 2023, quoi, pour au moins toute l'Afrique et tout ça, quoi, si tout va bien. C'est tout. Et en fait, quand on voit tous les bugs qu'il peut y avoir, et pour l'instant, on n'a pas trop de cas bon, on ne peut pas dire que les vaccins soient dangereux, quoi. Donc ça, c'est au moins ça de gagner, quoi, pour l'instant, quoi. Donc on croise les doigts et surtout, faut qu'on continue de croiser les doigts, c'est qu'ils soient vraiment que les variants qui vont continuer à sortir vont vraiment être faits, quoi. Et il n'y a rien de plus parce que si en fait la couverture n'est pas bonne avec ces variants, on va avoir des vaccins parfaits. Alors moi, c'est ce que j'explique aux étudiants, les vaccins parfaits, il n'y a rien de pire. Il vaut mieux pas de vaccin qu'un vaccin parfait. Un vaccin parfait, on favorise l'évolution des virus.
Ah
Donc,
oui, d'accord. Oui,
donc
qu'ils avaient cette adaptabilité-là ou cette compréhension-là du mal qu'on pouvait leur faire.
ouais. Et donc voilà, donc ils échappent et là ils y vont à fond la caisse, quoi. Donc et on sélectionne des variants qui échappent, quoi. Donc généralement qui sont plus rapides, quoi. Ce qu'on pense d'ailleurs qui est sorti, c'est l'hypothèse qui n'est pas encore prouvée sur l'émergence du variant anglais, quoi, qui serait finalement dû à des excès sorti de personnes qui ont eu des essais de drogue, quoi. Donc pas de vaccin, des essais vraiment de traitement, quoi. Et finalement, des personnes qui ont le vaccin, ils ont été soignés les symptômes, mais finalement le virus pas du tout. Et finalement le virus a duré très longtemps, la viramie a duré très longtemps. Et là, ça a tout ce qu'il ne faut pas. Voilà, voilà.
D'accord, bon, c'est encourageant. Je vois Stéphanie qui commence à jouer sur son clavier. Je pense que c'est un signe. Il faut prendre ça comme un signe.
Ouais.
Melalui objektivitas, serta pemikiran yang kritis dan terbuka, sains membawa jawaban melalui kerangka kerjasama agar ilmu pengetahuan dapat tersebar luas dan terus bermanfaat bagi masyarakat, baik kini maupun nanti. Menjawab kebutuhan lokal dan nasional, Indonesia dan Prancis bahu-membahu mengupayakan riset tanpa menggabaikan keunikan masing-masing. Kerjasama bilateral yang melibatkan 3.500 peneliti serta 300 proyek tiap tahunnya menjadi bukti kinerja dinamis kantor kerjasama ilmiah dan teknologi yang dinaungi oleh Kedutaan Besar Prancis di Indonesia. Kami siap mendukung Anda dan proyek Anda melalui 3 pilar, lewat jejaring, pembiayaan, dan peningkatan nilai. Di garda depan kesepakatan kerjasama, kami memegang peranan kunci dalam memastikan kontribusi Prancis terhadap pembangunan ilmiah berkelanjutan di Indonesia, bersama dengan pemangku kepentingan internasional lainnya. Melalui pendekatan yang disesuaikan menurut kebutuhan Anda, kami akan memfasilitasi relasi dengan berbagai pihak. Begitu terhubung, Anda dapat mengakses rangkaian program pembiayaan yang didesain khusus untuk memudahkan dan mengembangkan kerjasama. Program Science and Impact, Nusantara, dan Joint Funding Scheme akan melengkapi pengalaman kolaborasi Indonesia-Prancis Anda, baik lewat mobilitas jangka pendek maupun panjang, pelatihan, serta kesempatan program doktoral dan postdoc jangka panjang. Berikut kelengkapannya.
Merci Sabrina, bonne soirée.
Manfaatkan seluruh acara dan program kami yang secara lokal dan nasional telah terajut di 2 negara. Berkenalanlah dengan duta muda sains kami yang telah memperkenalkan riset mereka di luar negeri. Bagikan pengetahuan dan antusiasme Anda tentang sains dalam kehidupan sehari-hari bersama anak-anak Indonesia. Persatuan jadi lebih kaya dalam perbedaan. Karena itu, kami yakin Anda akan menikmati kolaborasi bersama peneliti Indonesia dan Prancis. Bergabunglah dalam keluarga besar kami. Ikuti terus kegiatan offline dan online kami. Silakan cek juga buku kerjasama ilmiah. Karena ada begitu banyak jalan bagi kita untuk terhubung satu sama lain.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 5th edition of La Nuit des Idées. So I hope that everyone is in a good health and comfortably seated, because tonight we are pleased to present you a dense and really interesting program. Related to the general and international theme of La Nuit des Idées, which is close, proche in French, our conference will be about zoonosis. So the theme we chose tonight is, Are We Too Close? What the emergence of zoonosis can teach us. We have the great pleasure tonight of welcoming Mr. Wayan Tunas Artama, who we are still waiting and should arrive soon, from Gadjah Mada University, and Mr. Serge Morand from CNRD CIRAD. Thank you for being here. The moderation of this webinar will be ensured by IFI Director, Mr. Stéphane Dauvert. But before starting the webinar, we are going to listen to a few words by our scientific cooperation attaché, Mr. Thierry Marais. So Thierry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, I would like to say that we are very pleased to welcome you at this webinar. This evening, the Scientific Cooperation Department of the French Embassy in Indonesia offers a debate on zoonosis as part of La Nuit des Idées, the Night of Ideas. La Nuit des Idées is an annual event that has been running for 6 years, on which takes place in France and in more than 65 countries at the same time. So the purpose of this event is to share knowledge on Ide and leave a lot of room for debate. The Nuit des Idées event is an invitation to discover, to listen to those who come up with innovative ideas in all fields, to discuss the major issues of our time. And this year, the topic is close. It was chosen to resonate with the coronavirus pandemic and the resulting lockdown restriction and relationships between humans. So we decided to illustrate these thematics close by focusing on zoonosis. Zoonosis are diseases transmitted from animals to humans and vice versa. And the debate will deal with the relationship between species and try to explain the causes and consequences of the close proximity between them and the mechanisms by which the virus spread between humans. In the global pandemic, is the global pandemic the consequence of deforestation too close to wild animals, overpopulation and globalization, too much proximity between humans, or other reasons? In one word, are we too close? To answer all of those questions and many more, we are pleased to welcome two world-renowned Indonesian and French specialists. But before that, I will let my colleague Miriam give you all the technical details regarding the conference, and my supervisor Stefan moderate this debate and introduce the speakers. So I wish you a good evening, and we are counting on your participation to open the debate and participate at the circulation of ideas.
Okay, so thank you, Thierry, for your word, for your presentation, and thank you for giving us some context about La Nuit des Idées. Before we start, I would like to give you a few technical details about the conference. So the conference will last around 1 hour, 30-minute presentation for each speaker. And afterwards, we will have around 45 minutes to discuss with the audience and with the speakers. So please, I'm saying that to the audience, do not hesitate to ask questions, give your opinions, or simply comment on the presentation on the Q&A tab of your Zoom application. If you want to have conversations and talk to each other, you can use the chat tab. So feel free to ask your questions in English, in French, or in Bahasa, because my colleagues Stephanie, Claudia, and myself can translate these three languages to the audience. So enough said now. Let's start the conference. And I will let Mr. Stéphane Nover open the presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Thierry, for these introductions. To introduce this debate, first of all, I would like to tell you a story, a short, frightening story, because we can introduce some points of literature in science. So I don't know if you are familiar with role-playing games, or if you have been a fan of science fiction or films that are very popular in Indonesia, or if you have read some Stephen King's novels that are very frightening as well. So let's start with my story. Try to figure out. You are picnicking in a forest at night, big forest. You feel good, you feel calm, you are in a place you like, and all of a sudden, you face big noise, huge noise that you don't really understand. Why? Because it's an alien noise. And you feel the effect of a stunning light. There are monsters coming. Bad smell, gigantic, 10 times your weight and size. Could you imagine that? Monsters of this size. And then they threw you in jail. Not really a jail, it's even worse than that. It's a cell. It's like a small cage. There are numerous around you, in a kind of cave where they have placed your cell, your cage. Smell, noise, light, you turn mad with this discomfort and terror. your cow. You experience shortness of breath and fever. You are suffering, you are suffering a lot, but it will not last long. Unfortunately, one of the monsters violently catch you by the chin, and you are brutally slaughtered by having your throat cut with a knife. It's not an horror film, in fact. It's just what poached animals experience, and pangolin, better known as scaly anteaters, that is one of the most poached animals on Earth, experience on a Chinese market and everywhere else in the world, because it's very appreciated for its flesh. While tapping about pangolin and COVID-19, I didn't find many stories of this like who look like mine. Instead, you find a lot that COVID is coming from pangolin. What an harmful nuisance and harmful species. Is that what we call an invasive species? And is it what we have to fight against? Let's take the only example of Javanese pangolin, that's called Manis javanica. It's a critically endangered species with only a couple of thousand remains. According to the Living Planet Index, better known as LPI, population sizes of wild vertebrates have been reduced of 2/3 in 50 years. 3 means that you had 3 times more wild vertebrates in 1970 than now. Meanwhile, from 1970 up to now, human population has more than doubled. 3.7 billion in 1970 to 7.8 billion in 2021. And we do not seriously take measures to protect the other species. Are we too close? Yes, we are. Do we have to adjust? Yes, we have. With this small introduction, I will leave the floor to our first guest. First guest, if he is already there with us, or yes, okay, to our first guest. Because of course, what I have shortly described, the overall pictures, has some real effects on our health, real effects on Earth, real effect on the other health. That's what we call global health. Professor Dr. Wayan Tunas Artama, thank you, Professor, to be here with us. He's graduated from Faculty of Veterinary Medicine of the Gajah Mada University. Then he got his doctoral degree from Freie Universität Berlin in Germany in 1989. Currently, Dr. Wayan Tunas Artama is a permanent lecturer at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine at the Gajah Mada University, and he is also coordinator of One Health Collaborating Center of the University Gajah Mada. He was Deputy Dean for Academic Research and Community Service at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, and he was awarded of the British Council Research Awards. He had some experience, of course, in Indonesia, as you have seen, in Germany as well, and with close contact to Britain that has honored him. He is actively conducting research on molecular biology of zoonotic diseases such as toxoplasmosis, cryptosporidiosis, trypanosomiasis, leptospirosis, TB, and writing articles both in national and international journals. He has appeared in several national and international seminars and in many training. I invite you, Professor Dr. Wayan Tunas Artama, to deliver your speech. The floor, Professor, is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for your introduction, introducing me. Good evening, everybody. Let me share my presentation. Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity that I can share what our experience in Yogyakarta and also in Indonesia. So our topic for today is control and prevention of zoonotic diseases and emerging infectious diseases. So we face a lot of disease for today for the worldwide, and then my topic will be because of very limited time, 30 minutes, then I should thank you for the organizer, and I share my experiences on zoonotic disease and trend, and then emerging and re-emerging in the infectious disease. Why is this emerging? How is this control the emerging infectious disease? And disease transmitted by dynamic. And then public health response and using One Health approach to control the disease. So just an introduction, I will say there are three key messages that will address that. There are 5 key drivers of emerging infectious disease in human as animal ecosystem interface. So for example, this is climate change, one of the drivers, and globalization is the second, and food safety is the third, and then industrialization is the fourth one, and then the fifth one is the tension of the population. So because of now we have in the world around 7 billion people on the earth, thus we compete with human being and also for animal for the food and the feed. So then rising the risk of the human behavior practices. So like now a lot of wildlife, the people try to have a lifestyle. With a new lifestyle, they like eat bush meat and wildlife to consume. This is the problem. And then the last one is understanding the disease dynamic is the risk-based strategy for mitigate the zoonotic diseases. So if we have an understanding about the dynamic of the disease, ecology of the disease, then we should have how to risk-based strategy to mitigate the disease before affect the human being. We have global challenges. So we facing a lot of emerging infectious disease or zoonotic diseases like Nipah virus in Malaysia. Around 190 people passed away because of the disease, and we have Ebola. More than 12,000 people passed away because of Ebola in the West Africa, and now in re-emerging in the Republic Congo in the Eastern Africa. And we have H7N9, and we have Ebola, and we have TB, and we have SARS, and we have also now COVID-19. So this is the disease that pandemic or endemic in a certain area, and we face the global problem. Then this is a global grand challenges. So for talking about the wildlife, in Indonesia is the second largest mega biodiversity. So we have 515 mammals species in Indonesia, but not only the richness of the wildlife, but we face also because of wildlife. This is around 75% of the disease, zoonotic diseases, come from wildlife. So this, in general, we know that around 1,116 diseases that affect the human being, but around 80%, 62% is animal origin, and 75% from wildlife. This is the role of wildlife in the disease, transmitted the disease to the human being is really a big problem. So if we can dealing with the zoonotic disease in animal, then 62% of the human pathogen will be controlled. The people now like change their hobby to have an exotic pet from animal, but we don't know that this is inside of the animals. We are very close from the wildlife now, and people closer, not the wild animal close to a human being, but our population is close to the forest, and then introduced with the wildlife. And beside that, they use also wildlife as a local food. So if you might be sometime go to the east, in North Sulawesi, you can maybe see a lot of things that wildlife in the market. Yeah, dog, cat, bat, and also snake, and also rat. And beside that, they use also as a drug. This is also the problem. They believe that wildlife, this is a good drug for certain diseases. As we do know that, but this is people have believe that. And then in the world, we facing a lot of zoonotic diseases that already emerged in our region, in our world, like avian influenza, AI, Ebola, Zika, MERS-CoV, Hendra virus in Australia, Marburg in Africa, cholera, Rift Valley fever, typhoid, and the white one, the typhoid, tuberculosis, lepto, anthrax, malaria, chikungunya, dengue, Japanese encephalitis is already endemic in our country, in Indonesia. And then the last one is antimicrobial resistant. Then antimicrobial resistant now become very popular because of misuse of antibiotic in the agriculture and also in the animal feeding. So then certain diseases is rising up, but only some diseases that already controlled by the WHO and also by the government in the local region. So one of the very important is COVID-19, and now is pandemic. Around 215 countries already impacted with the COVID-19. So more than 2 million people pass away about this disease. So the disease is how is this the timeline of the emerging viruses like West Nile, this Ebola virus, its HIV, SARS, coronavirus, MERS-CoV, and COVID-19. Originally, we believe that come from the bats, and also each one in one is from pigs, and avian influenza from migrated bird, and so on. This is just the timeline of the emerging infectious disease that we face now in the situation in all over the country. So to prepare for the pandemic, what should we do? Because in the newspaper and today we're facing a lot of problem. So how we should control, how should we manage the disease, and then to minimize the human risk to the infection to the human being, and how to minimize the infection, how minimize to control the zoonotic diseases. And then we should have a vaccine. We should have how to minimize, how to control the traveler, and so on, like what we have now. Some country they close the from foreigners. So to fighting for the outbreak, we just have a global outbreak. So for COVID-19, this is the big problem that challenging all country in the world. So according to the action package of Global Health Security Agenda, to prevent, to detect, and to respond, that zoonotic disease is one of the problem that put in the Global Health Security Agenda, belong to the prevent to and by safety or by security to prevent three. So then we still have the action package for that zoonotic diseases and emerging infectious disease. So this is the international agenda of how to control the zoonotic diseases. So talking about the emerging infectious disease or emerging Idées, now they are already just newly emerging the disease. Many of the in the yellow one is the newly emerging disease, and then red one is re-emerging diseases like chikungunya and yellow fever, human monkeypox, pox virus, West Nile, the emerging. But now we face also in East Java with West Nile, just recently reported by our colleagues in Surabaya. There's around 25 people already positive with West Nile. So maybe become our problem in the future, like in the state in the US, the start from 1999 and 2010, all US already positive with West Nile. So this is very important, how to control the disease not spreading from one place to another places. And we have a big problem also until now. We have H5N1 from 34 provinces, only one province still no cases of H5N1. So then we also have a problem in West Africa. Maybe everybody already have information that 2014-2015 is international emergency in West Africa and in the 3 countries, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea. This because of transmitted also according to the history of the disease, as the disease spread by bat from East Africa to the West Africa, and then it's also because of bushmeat. They have bushmeat, green macaque, according to the WHO official. So the disease already started in beginning in 1976, but now still have a problem in this region, in the Republic of Democratic Congo. So this illustrated that the disease spread by bats from the Republic of Congo to the Guinea at the beginning, and then come to the neighboring countries, to Sierra Leone, and more than 12,000 people passed away because of the disease. From according to the registration over there, there's more than 24,000 people infected, and then 12,000 people passed away. So this is a big problem than the world problem. So then we talking about the Indonesia. Indonesia is one part of the they call this as a hot spot diseases. This is many countries like in Amazon, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, and Peru. This is also recognized as a hotspot that has transmitted the disease from wildlife to the human being. And then in Southeast Asia, one of from many different countries, Indonesia is belong to one of the hotspot. Probably then in the future, we don't know yet. Maybe in the future, a new emerging disease from this country or from this region spread to the another country, like MERS-CoV-2 is already from Middle East to many countries in Europe and in Asia. So hopefully, we through new approach that we hope to do collaboration between many stakeholders, then we can manage the disease and then control the spread from wildlife to the human being. So what is the disease viruses from bacteria that transmitted by many different wildlife, from carnivore and from bat and also from cows and also from macaque. So we have concentrated our research and our duty to control long-tail macaque in the tourism object like in Bali, Yogyakarta, and other places to minimize transmission of the zoonotic diseases from any wildlife to the human being or to the visitors. So we have also mapped the disease according to the region and try to identify what kind of which one of zoonotic disease will be prominent in the future. Then we have research also to do to prioritizing the zoonotic disease in our country, in Indonesia. So through one approach that we call One Health approach, we have system thinking. Then emerging infectious disease could be controlled, could be using this approach to minimize, to control how we should be controlled. Then emerging infectious disease, what kind of emerging infectious disease emerge in a certain region? When is the disease emerged, and then where is there, and how should be controlled? How should be managed the disease? This is the logic of thinking and how to control the zoonotic diseases using one of we call it soft skill of One Health. So then we try to find out that around 61.3% of new human infection likely originated from the animal. This means animal origin. That causing a deadliest pandemic in recorded human history, like that we mentioned already: Ebola, EI, TB, COVID-19, and Zika, and others. So I will here illustrate that estimated economic loss of avian influenza only in Indonesia. This is 760 billion per year. This is from 34 provinces. We start with the disease since 2003, but now until 2021, there still exists the disease, but we already milled the disease, but still a problem in our country because of the farming system in our country is very different. We have system here in like industrial chicken farm and backyard chicken farm. This is very difficult to control, but in the industrial chicken farm, is easier because of biosecurity and biosafety. They use biosecurity and biosafety procedure in the good farm, but in the backyard, it's not possible to do that, and possible also to vaccinate the chicken, and then the disease spread from one place to another places, and now it's already 33 provinces affected with the diseases. So one of the problem, the emerging infectious disease or EAD spread to one place to another places is because of commercial traveling. Is traveling around the world. This never stop day and day, in the night, or even in the night. This is still a lot of flight from one places to another places, like what we have a COVID-19 now, start from Wuhan, and just in less than 6 months, spreading to 200 countries around the world. So according to the IDF conference meeting, the factors of emerging infectious disease and re-emerging infectious disease, the first line is international travel and commerce. This is 77%, and the globalization of agriculture and trade, 70%. Microbial adaptation, 66%, and climate change that we maybe some of us recognize that climate change is the big role, but only 57%, and changing ecosystem 49%, nearly 50%, and poverty is also belong to one of factor, but only 38%. And then technology, that industrialization intent to harm is very low, 20%. So this is the big problem is international travel and commerce. So for the re-emerging infectious diseases, many of the diseases were thought to be controlled through antibiotic, but in fact, it's not really right, because in some cases, the re-emerging disease is resistant to antibiotic. Like we facing a lot of cases, TB cases in our country. We now belong to the second highest TB cases in the world after India, and that was number 5, number 6, but now increased because of the multi-drug resistant TB and multi-drug TB cases. We found, according our research, our investigation, our surveillance, we got MDR TB, a lot of MDR TB. So then, why all disease re-emerging? The first one, because of evolution of the pathogen. So mutation in the bacterial gene that confers resistance to antibiotic because of transmission of the using of antibiotic more than the normal, then that could be mutation in the bacteria. Multi-drug resistant and extremely drug resistant TB, MDR TB, and multi-drug resistant also in Plasmodium falciparum, that we have also a problem with the malaria in the country. And the second problem, because of reduce the human immunity, like immunization value, increase of immunity, increasing number of incompetent, incompromised hosts because of drug abuse and so on, and because of certain diseases also. So what did this epidemic infectious disease have in common? All were caused by zoonotic pathogen, all spread by modern transportation, by globalization. It's very easy from transmitted from one place to another place in one day, and most had an Asian and African origin. We don't know why. This because of ASEAN and Africa belong to the hotspot diseases that I mentioned before in the map. And then we don't have enough good laboratory and clinical diagnosis problematic in the region, so that way the disease might be not really in the beginning recognized and not early detected, and then becomes endemic in the area, or become spreading from one place to another places, from one country to another country. And poor communication among countries, that we should have a collaboration among the ASEAN and African country. That way we have one health Africa and one health in Asia. We call it SIHUN. And in Africa also they have one health. And then all the disease has a major economic impact, like COVID-19. Some countries the economic impact is a big problem in the country. So our research in Indonesia, we try to find out according to, we did surveillance, we did survey, we asked the government, the official government, and also scientists at the university, and also health stakeholder. And then we try to find out what kind of disease, because in our country there are two ministry responsibility for zoonotic disease, like agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Health. But they have their own priority, which different from the ministry. So we try to merge what kind of zoonotic diseases become a priority for both ministerium. Then we try to find out from our survey. We got classical swine fever, dengue hemorrhagic fever, filariasis, hepatitis, leptospirosis, malaria, pest, rabies, rickettsiosis, salmonellosis, swine flu, and others, and also belong to one that is West Nile there, and TB. So then we try to find only the priority that government can cover for handling of the zoonotic disease. And we come up with 5 priority. The first position is rabies. From 34 provinces, there are still problem in around 24 provinces. Avian influenza is not the second place. It was 33 provinces in Indonesia still have a problem with AI, even already more than 17 years already in Indonesia. And then leptospirosis now become problem also in many provinces. Around 14 provinces already have a problem with leptospirosis. And anthrax, just recently we have many cases of anthrax in Yogyakarta, in East Java, in West Java, and so on. Then we have also the last one, priority is brucellosis. This is disease that's transmitted . So then the last last session is how to prevent the zoonotic diseases. How to prevent the zoonotic diseases? What should we do if we have a problem with the zoonotic diseases? Do we need a solution? So in the beginning, the first one, we should have an internet-based information technologies. So if we have cases in a certain region, we can report it directly on the day and with the picture to send to the central office, and then decided in the central government how to control the disease. And this is dissemination of the information is very important. And the second one, the new technology of metagenomic analysis or the human genome analysis. This is very important to have understanding of role of human genetic in the disease susceptibility, progression of host response, and microbiome and metagenomic analysis of pathogen. We can analyze through a new technology that we call mini-ion. We established also in many places already in Indonesia to identify and detect. And the last point to control is if the wildlife recognizes 75% for the zoonotic disease pathogen responsible for 75%, so we should have forecasting readiness to identify early detection, laboratory equipment, laboratory standard, and then we can rapid respond and to avoid spillover of the zoonotic disease from animal to the human being, or from the wildlife to the human being, and then we can reduce dramatically to control the zoonotic disease. Then we call that this is the benefit of early detection system and provide a good laboratory to detect the disease.
Pak Wayan?
Yes.
Sorry for disturbing because your time is very limited.
Yeah, still 2 slides.
Okay.
Then finish. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Then we to over this problem, we should have grand challenges. We need One Health. One Health is not change what we have done, but how we do it and how to work together, collaborate with many health stakeholders to get it done. So then we use we call that OH Smart One Health System Mapping Analysis Resource Toolkit. And how should we work, for example, for TB or MDR TB in human for COVID-19, we should work, who should work together? Department of Health, Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory, Department of Agriculture, Board of Animal Health, Department of Natural Resources, and from that we should work in a collaboration to handle one topic of the disease, then we can control the disease. From this combined map, we then regenerated this discrepancy between agencies, and then we can have a solution for the disease. For example, we mapped the disease of toxoplasmosis that my research, one of my result of my research, we try to map the disease using the GIS and then plotting the disease, and then we reported to the local government or to the local governor for how to control the disease and to spreading the disease from one place to another place because of oocysts transmitted through a river. So then as a conclusion, how to control this disease, we challenge to reverse the trend. So prevent movement of pathogen and vector via modern transportation, pro-globalization, improve international cooperation and data sharing. The third one is improve effective laboratory-based surveillance active surveillance, laboratory-based surveillance, rebuild public health infrastructure to prevent and control vector-borne and zoonotic disease through train the personnel capacity building, laboratory and epidemiology capacity, tool, vaccine, drug, insecticide, mosquito control, and so on. Understanding the disease ecology. And then the last one, but not least, is political will, economic support, and apply one health system mapping analysis resulted toolkit is one point that we can control the disease. And then regional prevention and control program should be done. So this is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Professor Wayan.
Yeah.
It has been a very interesting presentation because it gave us the idea of how intricate the response and the understanding of the global health issue should be. It's not only, you can't just address the issue, you can't just understand the issue by focusing on one special point. You have to understand the evolution of human life on Earth and evolution of environment as well. So it's really something that should be based on global thinking. It's not only global health, it's global thinking.
Yeah.
And it's global thinking, and it's based, of course, on many survey, understanding, data that you have to collect accordingly on a wide range of things. And it leads me, when I saw all your maps and stats and so on, of course, it led us to think that, all of a sudden, we have some problems, global health problems that we didn't have before. In fact, we don't have to think this way. We have to think that there are evolutions, there are problems, new problems, but as a matter of fact, most of the deadly epidemics of the past have been in the same kind of situation. I remember, I can't say so, it was 500 years ago, but the Black Death, the big plague epidemic on the entire world killed almost half of the world population of these times, in the 16th century. So and it was connected to rats and fleas. So it's not new, and mosquitoes have been vector for illness for a long time. So what we have now, thanks to you and thanks people like you, is a more global pictures than we had before. And then we just have to put the right factor at the right place. And this is where your job is so complicated, where we admire you so far, so much. So thanks a lot, Professor. We will go to our next speaker.
Yeah, we got grant also from French government.
But I think that it's a global thinking, and that what is important is to get the connections from a team to another. And it's what we are working on French cooperation, is to link, to connect the researchers. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Serge Morand, who is really an example of this international cooperation. Serge is a leading world researcher in the field of ecology and epidemiology. He is a part of several French leading institutions in the field of research, including CNRS and CIRAD.
Yeah, CIRAD, we have, we collaborate with CIRAD and also with Montpellier too. It's just a global, the French academic as a model, but not only. He is a visiting professor at University of Maidal University and Kasetsart University in Thailand, and he's connected with a lot of Southeast Asian institutions, as you have just reminded us, Professor. And Serge research are focused on the link between biodiversity and health, not a surprise. He investigates the evolutionary ecology of host-parasite interaction and health ecology.
is an expert in field parasitology, and field parasitologist is concerned at the role of biodiversity as risk and insurance for zoonotic emerging infectious disease and the emergence and spread of antimicrobial resistance. Seems to be complicated, but it will make it clear. He's currently working on the links between biodiversity and health, facing global challenges. Global is global, but especially in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Last but not least, because it does impress me a lot, Serge is the author of more than 700 publications. Yes, you have heard well, 700 publications. So it's an understatement to say that he is one of our leading world researchers on this special and so important issue that is all tonight. Serge, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan, and many thanks to have the pleasure to speak just after Professor Wayan. Very happy to meet you again. It's very nice. Hopefully, I hope to come to Indonesia as soon as possible. So we will see. Okay, I will start to share my screen. So normally it should be. Is it okay? Yeah, okay. So I start. So I think I was very happy. I was a little aware and very happy with the title of this of the Nuit des Idées. Are we too close? And because it's really sounds about. Close about what? Close to each other, close to wildlife, close to the other countries. So what we are close to, and also the other animal, not only the wildlife. And I would like also to thank again Professor Wayan, because he gave us a very great introduction, which means that it will be very more easy now to give my talk. My first thing is. And it's related also what say already Stefan. Yes, there was epidemics, and especially during the last decades, but there is a great acceleration of epidemics. When you look here, I try to compute the data for the number of epidemics worldwide during the last 70 years. We are really an increase of this kind of epidemics, more and more and especially it was more pronounced for the vectorial disease. It also concerned the animal infectious disease. When you are looking for the disease for animals, it's also increasing, even we have data only for 2005. And yes, it's maybe something, and we will show this, related with the increase of the travels of passenger and freight. And we have to remember that if there was only 500 million people to take the plane in 1970. Now, we in 2019, we were more than 4 billion people, 1,300% increase. And so it's explained why, if we are looking at the network of the sharing of epidemics among countries and through the time, what we see is a decrease of modularity. What does it mean? It means that now, starting in 62, when there is an epidemic somewhere on the world, is starting to spread regionally and globally. More and more pandemics, globalization of pandemics, and this is completely related to the increase of travels or the freight also for the goods. At the same time, we have also a great acceleration of farming, and the data also are completely impressive. Taking back from the data from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States, when we look at the number of cattle, in 1960, they were less than 1 billion. Now, close to 1.7 billion. Pigs, they were 500 million, now more than 1.5 billion. Chicken, 4 billions in 96, now close to 25 billions. And everything is like this. When we look at globally, if we weight all the animals, the terrestrial animals, the weight, the total biomass of the cattle is much more than the biomass of humans. And pigs are not so far. And of course, you see that what is remaining for wild vertebrates, or except the elephants. So all the planet is dominated by the livestock and some domestic animals, some pets like dogs and cats, remaining very few for the wild vertebrates. And actually, if we counting all the number of chickens, hens, ducks, we have more of these birds than the wild birds. So completely dominated by this. What is the impact of this? But the impact, when we look again at the data, and especially the epidemics of livestock or on humans, but what we look at the data on the biodiversity that are putting at risk, are not the one with the Living Planet Index, the Living Planet Index, but the one from the IUCN, the red list. And when we look at this, what we found that there is a good correlation. The number of cattle during the last 40 years increasing as a good explanation for the increase of epidemics. And there is also a good explanation to explain the decrease of the increase actually of the number of species that are on risk of extinction on the planet. Not only this, there is also a great acceleration of changing ecosystem. So just last year, there was this very nice report altogether for the FAO, and many people asked me that, is deforestation related to epidemics? So I look at, and there is not so much the global paper. So we finished just a paper on just submitted. And what we were looking at the evolution of forest cover, mostly deforestation during the last 30 years, but also some crop production, new plantation, like old pine plantation that was increasing, not of course everywhere on the world. And does it link with the zoonotic disease, epidemics, or vector-borne disease? And yes. All over the deforestation in the normally the high covered forest area in the tropics are linked with the increase of the vector-borne and zoonotic disease over the last 40 years, more and more. On old pine, mostly with the vector-borne disease and a little bit with the zoonotic disease. Quite interestingly, we found also that reforestation can be linked with vector-borne disease and zoonotic-borne disease. How to explain this? Because most of the time it's not multi-diverse forest, is only the plantation. They are specific, like for example in China, in India, and even in Vietnam. Actually, the deforestation, it was very well advanced, but when the reforestation is only plantation, is not a multi-diverse forest. So there is something. And if we are looking at those consequences on the link between biodiversity loss that are accelerating a lot, what's going on, this is what Stefan introduced just before this introduction of this seminar, the Living Planet report for 2020, showing that there is a decrease everywhere, and especially in some places, of all the population that are monitored for also long term. And with this, for this new book that will appear in French for the moment in 1 month, I look again at the relationship between the diversity and the number of diseases in the country. Sorry, is in French, but what I meant is here is where there is a lot of species in the country, like for example, in Indonesia, Southeast Asia, tropical Africa, or South America, there is also a higher number of reported disease. And it's normal. is normal because the pathogen, the microbe, the viruses, the parasites are members of the disease. But it doesn't mean that there is outbreaks. It doesn't mean that there is emergence. But when we look at the biodiversity at treat, and there was only one big hotspot still in 2008, and it's still the high hotspot of biodiversity at treat, Southeast Asia, but starting to have somewhere also. When we look at the number of outbreaks, especially of zoonotic disease, controlled for the knowing disease, we found that they are related to the relative number of species in danger. Everything is like that. Losing species, losing biodiversity, increase the unregulation of disease. Why? Because when there is a very biodiverse places, it means that yes, you have a lot of pathogen of microbes, but there is a lot of regulation of the vectors, of the reservoirs, by the birds, by the predators, by the big predators. And when we losing biodiversity, we start to lose all of this connection, of this regulation. So we are in a world of unregulation with biodiversity. That explains why we are, especially here, a hotspot of zoonotic disease, but not only, we have some other place, and Professor Wayan saw some other place when we have this, and we favor more and more spillover. Our spillover, not directly with humans, sometimes yes, but a lot also with some amplification in the domestic animals that are increasing all the time in numbers, and all of these synanthropic species like the rats, and all of these vectors that really like humans, like for example, Idées or Culex or Anopheles. And this may explain why we are now for the last decades an increasing of emerging from the wildlife, and especially the bats that were not so much giving parasite before. Focusing a little bit in terms of Southeast Asia, that's why it's explained why I'm starting to work in Southeast Asia now 12 years ago, because it was, I think it was the place that with a huge and fascinating biodiversity, but biodiversity really in danger. A place also we have a lot of neglected tropical diseases, and Professor Wayan was right also to show that it's not only emerging disease, we have re-emerging disease, and we have all this burden of neglected tropical disease, but it's also a hotspot of biocultural and cultural diversity. Quite interesting, but also this is also at risk of extinction. According to the linguist, Southeast Asia will lose 50% of all its language in the next 50 years. So everything is losing at so fast, and we're losing, and maybe there is some connection with all of this. That's where we are working. I will not go too much in detail like this, but we conducted a lot of field work in Southeast Asia, and especially Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, a little in Vietnam, a little in Philippines, and sorry, not yet in Indonesia, but it's one of my dreams. And to look at the change in the land use, land cover, to look, we use rodents, but we can use, now we use also some animals because rodents live also very close to them, working with local communities, doing evolution of the temporal, working with public health to have data, and we try to understand what's going in terms of disease. And what we found, for example, that yes, the changing landscape at the really local communities, changing landscape have a great importance in terms of selecting of reservoirs and decrease of some reservoirs, but increasing of a lot of pathogens that are hosting in this reservoir, in this rodent reservoir, like leptospirosis, hantaviruses, arenaviruses, really with first increasing of the agricultural extension, but also urbanization that could be a problem. But we focus now, and it's maybe the way to go to the after to the second, the end of my talk, the second part and the end of my talk. That's why we with with our colleagues in Thailand, but with many people that we work there. We're starting to work with local communities in northern Thailand, the district, sub-district of Santong. It's 8 villages. We work very well with the sub-district administrative organization, but also the province, also nationally with the public health, the livestock. And we're involved with a lot of district departments, like the forestry, the agriculture, the livestock, the public health. We work with the hospital, the primary care unit, and looking with this as the stakeholder network there. We work, of course, with the head of the village, the assembly, but with all, finally, the volunteers for agriculture, the livestock. So we can really implement several things. First, I have to say, we were very interested only to get rodents and to investigate rodents, but more and more because of the question of the people, because of the involvement of the district of hospital, but after of the livestock department, we're starting to develop a lot all the time, all the project there on tick-borne disease, mosquito-borne disease, now food-borne disease, antimicrobial resistance at the interface between livestock, between with pig and chickens, increasing farming of this, but with the environment and with the people. So we were looking really with the sharing of genes of antibiotic resistance, and even with the wildlife and the environment. Pesticides and exposome, now also traditional knowledge, microbiota and microbiome, rickettsial disease with our colleague for Oxford, on something now with a project that is also associated in Indonesia on the dogs with Professor Wayan with my colleagues and friends Michel de Carine, CIRAD in Kasetsart University. So all of this we have done. We have done a lot of work, and even also with the help of the people, and to collect rodents and different to do fish. We have done the land use. I even do, but mostly for me, the soundscape ecology. So to record sounds. We have done also all the ecological gradient, and finally to go to the soil and mostly to characterize the health of the ecosystems. And we develop a lot of projects, and all the time is like this. We have a technical design, we have also ethical engagement, we have, for example, also participatory mapping, and we have stakeholder network. We work sometimes it with Thai people, sometimes many countries actually work there. We have people that come from Singapore, from Taiwan, from Spain, from Germany, so from UK, so a lot of different projects, and we put all together, we share the information, and we put all on the map, and would be also the participatory mapping on the epidemiology. For what to this is really finally to understand locally what are the problems, what are the emergence, what are the epidemics, how the people control the disease. So how finally it works, maybe without the name of the One Health, if even the public health use the One Health, but we try really, and for the first time, to put a lot of ecology into the relationship between the animal health sectors and the human health sectors. And it works like this. We have to formulate problem all together. What is the problem? What is the problem of the community, of all the district hospital, or the livestock department, or the forestry, or the national park? That the thing that is concerned for everybody, and for the community, or for the wildlife, the conservation, or for the agriculture, or for the control of pesticide with the new implementation, or for emerging of new disease, like for example, the arrival of the African swine fever. With this, we did a protocol design, and start to see how to implement this design, or to engage really the stakeholder, all the people to work together. And this was this kind of things with the CANMAN, the community, with all the department, and with the district organization. And after with this, we can go to the ethics engagement, because we have several. or not, so it's not only the community engagement, it is also the ethics, to realize, to analyze, to communicate, and after going after to some people to recommendation, and mostly what is to imagine future. People, they don't want, as in France, as everybody in Indonesia, they want to have an happy life. They want to have good agriculture, they want to have animals in good health, and finally they recognize that this necessitates to have a good environment, living in a good environment that is a support of the well-living, well-being, living all together. So the future is really now. We need to act now. And we are already discussed, thanks to Professor Wayan, about the One Health, with the want to connect better humans, animals, and the environment. My only aware, and I was always this to aware, is the One Health is not only biosecurity and biosurveillance, is really to integrate better the environmental domain into the One Health. But this is mostly local, and it's helped also at giving some solution for some problems like antibiotics resistance. Another way to think is to think globally, but it's not independent of locally. We have already discussed it's emerged locally on epidemics, and after it spread globally, but it's also the global that have an impact on the local. For example, see at the increased demanding of the palm oil production. But we have a new concept, which is the planetary health. And the planetary health is based on the way that with human health and even human civilization can work only if the natural systems works well. So we have to have a wise stewardship of this natural system. We are stewards. We are also only short-time users. We have to think about the future and the next generation. On this, the planet facing a lot of problems. Climate change, I will say, biosphere integrity, like the biodiversity, but also the genetic diversity. But all the geochemical flows, I would say, nitrogen and phosphorus, the use of fresh water, the land system also that change, the ozone. So many of these that we have to tackle on that. We know that they are important globally, but they affect locally. So we have to finally to merge all of these concepts together. And we have to find solution. But solution for favoring ecosystem health, nature-based solution. And it's really, now it's really the time to go to the natural-based solution. It was promoted by the UNEP, by UNESCO, promoted also by a lot of cities. I will show you for the climate change and the climate resilience in relation to climate change. And I will just show you one study that was published 2 years ago, very nice study on planetary Lancet Planetary Health. What they were looking at in Cambodia, the change in the illness in the local communities according to the change in the land use, land cover. And the people that live the more close to the intact forest, the communities, the protected areas, they are the ones that suffer the less of problem of illness. And you can say when there is a loss of forest loss, when you have loss of change, finally, these affect the health of the community, not only for the community, but also of the animal, which means that the connection with nature is also, you see, there is a lot of bacteria, viruses in the nature, but why the people are not suffering? Why the people are starting to suffering of illness when there is a change of their environment? And I think now we have to really to work on this, not on the hot spot of infectious disease, but on the cold spot. Find the place where it's safe for biodiversity, for human health, for animal health, and studying this maybe give us the nature-based solution for this. Actually, it was already putting into the city, and especially in Southeast Asia, I would say in Singapore and Hong Kong, but Singapore have already developed the nature-based solution and have developed also guidelines, especially for the gardens and even the therapeutic gardens in Singapore. So we have experience for the big city. So we have to show experience for the big. We have finally to work on healthy landscape for biodiversity, but for healthy people. So what are the landscapes that work for both biodiversity and people, that seems to link really ecosystems on human well-being, and finally the best way to contribute to the sustainable development goals, to the post-Aichi target for the Convention on Biological Diversity that we'll discuss normally this year in China. This is the good way to do this. Conclusion. The conclusion is already about this. We need to improve the co-viability between the social and the ecological system. We need to reconnect mankind to the biosphere, knowing that the changes are very fast. We need to do this. So, One Health, ecosystem services, planetary health. Okay, we have all these concepts, and it can apply for this view at the global, at the local, at the underway. Anyway, we have this, we can work in communities, we can exchange, we can have this. So we can promote One Health, planetary health. We can promote that, saying that we need to work on healthy ecosystems and environment. This will be the ground to build up healthy people and communities, and healthy animals and plants and to work. So we need to promote, yes, intersectoriality between the public health, the animals health, the environment, the development sector, the economy, finally, but even the security, which is important. And with this, we can develop nature-based solution for healthy communities with community stakeholder engagement, One Health and ecosystem health best practices. And I will thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Serge, for this very, very brilliant and enlightening presentation. I have noticed a couple of points that you have raised that are really of great, that lead to conclusions that are very important. Especially, you have mentioned that reservoir of biodiversities, the current reservoir of biodiversities, even if they are reservoir of plenty of microorganisms, including microorganisms that can lead to disease, they are naturally controlled by their environment. And it's whenever the environment is changing that it leads to pandemics, to epidemics and pandemics. So when you affect the environment, the results, the feedback is immediately huge and terrible. And that's one of the conclusions that I took from your presentation. Another point that is very, very crucial, you mentioned the fact that our planet is dominated by livestock right now. And but livestock doesn't come alone. It's not spontaneous, as we say. It's not a spontaneous generation. It's of course very linked to our way of life, and this is something that you have been very, very soft about it. But I think that your presentation leads us to wonder about the quality of our not the quality, but the sustainability and the smartness, or the lack of smartness of our way of life. I think that it's definitely something that is at stake. Do we need such an amount of meat? Do we need such an amount of travels? You have really closely linked, and Professor Wayan did the same with interconnections, the problem of epidemics and interconnections. This is really one of the crucial points. So we just have to wonder. I don't think that sustainable development goals are the only question, the question of the way we do live and the way we impact our environment as individuals and as a group and as a species is really, really, really at stake. Thanks a lot, Serge, really, and thanks, Professor Wayan. It has been really, really enlightening, and I think that we can have hours of discussion, and we'll have some more discussion, but it's now time to get back to Stephanie and Miriam for the Q&A session.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefan, and thank you very much for Bapak Serge and also Bapak Wayan. And right now we arrive in the question and answer session. We already received at least 4 or 5 questions that are very interesting to look. And we will start from Bapak Pebi Purwosuseno. I think this question is for Bapak Wayan. So the question is, with all of the key drivers exist in Indonesia, why we haven't seen any disease emerging in Indonesia? Or Indonesia become an epicenter of an outbreak or pandemic? So the floor is yours, Bapak Wayan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Febi. I know Pak Febi. It's a very nice question that we are lucky not as an epicenter of the emerging infectious disease in Indonesia. If we have that, maybe we have a big problem of the economic problem. So, but even though we don't have an epicenter in Indonesia, but we got a disease from outside, like Zika, COVID-19, and EI that was also come from outside, not from Indonesia. But maybe in the future, we don't know, because we are in hotspot diseases, and maybe in the future, some days, who knows, we don't know yet, the disease of tomorrow maybe. And then we should control. How should we control? Because through One Health Smart that we propose to the government, we train already 25 provinces already how to dealing with maybe the disease in the future. We should map the disease, we should map the capacity, health capacity and human capacity, and also do a surveillance to minimize potential zoonotic diseases or emerging infectious diseases that might be appear in the future. So the disease of tomorrow. Yeah, this is I have already answered also through an answer.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Wayan. Another question for you from Fifi from Indonesia. Which human behaviors that wrong that cause the EID? Example, please. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, this is also a question, because like when we propose to have One Health, because One Health is belief to culture and belief. Jadi we understanding also people that have a habit to have wildlife food like in North Sumatra, but how should we teach them not to have raw meat? This is important, the raw meat, because the meat that already boiled as a rica-rica, maybe the virus is not survive anymore. But to have a satay like fresh meat, maybe is the bad thing that to do. For example, like blood from the snake, and as a medicament, and also from the gecko. That some people like that. They believe as a medicament for the people, but we don't know for sure what is inside of the blood. So this is very important to avoid the bushmeat.
Yeah, so education is also very important. Yeah, play the roles to make people understand about the dangers. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Pak Wayan. And right now is from Kevin Hutajulu. I think this question is for Bapak Serge. So are there any ways that we can do to ensure that these zoonotic diseases truly stop jumping from animals to humans?
Very good question, and very difficult to respond. With my pessimistic point of view, I think no, we will continue. Actually, it will continue to have a new emerging disease. I did not put also really from the livestock. We know that the livestock during the many millennium have given us a lot of infectious disease, and they could continue to give us new zoonotic disease, a good bridge. So no, the problem is we know that we will have new emergence. We know that we have new epidemics. The problem, it's completely impossible due to the complexity of the situation to know what, where, and why. The WHO put a lot of effort with a very good researcher, what we named the disease X. So in 2018, they put this, they said that what could be the disease X? And they listed several things. Okay, the coronavirus was there. Okay. So, but they don't know place. And it was interesting because even, for example, when you use some data, and I think it was very interesting, the one that Professor Wayan showed, the study of 2017 with the prediction of emerging disease according to the biodiversity. And if you remember, the one with the bats, and it was red. Where it was red? Which country? In South America. And actually, completely wrong. All the emerging disease from bat is from Asia, Australia, and or Asia, which include the Middle East. So it means it's not because these people are completely stupid. No. Because of finally the data we put inside, the way we think about this. So it's more complicated. So because it's more complicated, the prediction doesn't work very well. And I would say it's terrible, even the preparedness doesn't work. How many, I speak mostly for Europe and for US, how many billions of dollars have been put into the preparedness? And we prepare for nothing. And when we have a new pandemic, we still face the same big problem. So that's why I would say that, okay, we have to think, we have to live with this. We have to finally to better reduce and I'm too long to speak. But when we look at, for example, in Southeast Asia and Asia, what important things that is the low lethality of the disease. Even in Thailand, where Thailand is the same size as France, same number of people, almost the same age of people, because the Thailand starting to aging a lot. You totally 15,000 cases still the beginning, and only 77 dead people during 1 year of epidemics. Why these coronaviruses are so harmless compared, for example, to dengue in Thailand? This is the good question to ask and to work on this. How to live well, finally, as we live with the neglected tropical disease, c'est-à-dire decrease the burden in the country, well, with the good public health, with the good livestock sectors, and do not put too much effort for nothing.
Okay, so to continue the question from Kevin, I also have another interesting question from Finny, Universitas Gadjah Mada. So nowadays, the use of technology is applied to many aspects of life, such as machine learning and data mining. So she would like to know how these two fields may help to analyze and prevent the next possibly infectious diseases.
For sure. So the thanks to the new technology, and especially the computing and the fast computing, that is good. We have also the big data, so we can manipulate a quantity of data in real time. And of course, we have to have good quality data, important data, and sometimes we miss the good data. So this is the sense. And with this, yes, we need people, more and more people that are data scientists. So this is also, I discussed that with the French embassy to discuss about connection with the scientists, with French, and with also with university in France and the university in Indonesia. Yes, we need to have a good data scientist, good data modelers, because it's really important for many things. For disease, but not only to predict the disease, to manage all the disease we have, to manage the health, to manage the ecosystem. For the sustainable agenda, we need this kind of brain of people, so new students in this area. So it's also a good way to say this to the French embassy, maybe to organize sometimes some kind of seminar in this field.
Okay, thank you for your opinion and also your answer. Next, I think this is the last question. So he or she, anonymous, could the bacteriophage be the source of antimicrobial disease?
I can answer very quickly. Yes, it is quite interesting. Actually, it was used already a long time ago by the Soviet Union, the medical, because they don't have access so much for the revolution of the antibiotics, and they use what we name at this time the bacteriophage therapy, and they use a bacteriophage which are things. And surely that there is something to do, but actually we have to know that everybody knows now because of the gene editing, and now we can manipulate the genes, we can manipulate the genome, thanks to what we name the CRISPR-Cas9. This is a new gene. What is this gene? This gene is by bacteria to fight against bacteriophage. So it means that they are linked to this. So yes, we can really work a little bit better with this. We have maybe also some kind of nice innovation to work with finally with some viruses that are helpful that can be helpful for us, because a lot of viruses are not harmless. They are part also of our living way, and if we remove them, maybe we will be not very good health. So we can work on this, and especially for the livestock, the animals.
Okay, nice, very nice answer. Just to close this question and answer session, it's very interesting from Fifi. Do you all panelists agree, even suggest for all of us to be vegetarians? Maybe Prof. Wayan or Prof. Serge?
First, Dr. Yang. I can answer for me because I discussed a little bit about cultural diversity, and I discuss about, and I can discuss a little bit about cultural biodiversity. Southeast Asia, all the Asia, is a place where most of our animals were domesticated. The chicken, the ducks, the pigs, the buffaloes. A lot of this is part, and it's part also of the culture, and it has also developed a multiple breed, multiple. So this is part of the culture, and it's part of the meaning of the people. So I think the way to think that, okay, we are to be vegan, I'm not sure this is a good idea, and especially because these animals also are important for the connection, for our connection and for our feeling. We need these animals for this, even for it. What we need, yes, is not to eat too much. The protein, the animal protein, starting to be too important, especially in the urbanized population, not in the countryside, but the urban population. And I would say, when you go to Taiwan, you go to China, you go to some place, too much too much meat. So the demand in meat, it's okay. So we have to put more, eat more proteins for the plant protein, rather than to use this to feed the animals.
Okay, maybe concerning Indonesia, you have another point of view for this question, Bapak Wayan.
Yeah, thank you. This is a good question. Whether we have all together as a vegetarian is not really true, but like what Sergei said, because in the German word that it is said in German word, vernünftig essen, that means kita harus bijaksana dalam makan. This is vernünftig essen. How we should select it, not eat all. Everything. Kalau kita, if we talking about the vegetarian, is not really for ourselves. Ourselves is good, but if the disease already spread from one people to another people, because according to biosafety and biosecurity, biosafety is to protect people from the infection. But biosecurity is how the environment will infect us. If somebody is not careless, then we will get also the disease, even we are vegetarian. So like COVID-19 vegetarian or non-vegetarian, it's no matter. Everybody have the disease.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do not eat too much. And care about the environment and also animals to make our world better than before. Okay, thank you very much, Bapak Serge Morand and also Bapak Wayan. I think I will give the last speech to Miriam Hamek.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your time and for your presentation. But before that, I think that Stefan wanted to say something.
No, it was on the debate of being vegetarian or not. We can the fact that to get one protein, one of meat, you need so much land use, and that if you consume too much meat, it will affect the environment, and of course it will affect the areas covered by forest and natural environment, especially because the population, the human population, is still on the rise. So the fact that it used to be quite balanced to eat some meat on a very moderate way maybe doesn't work anymore very well, because the weight of the population and the need for land use. But this is a personal point. I'm not 100% vegetarian, but my advice is that we have all to turn more vegetarian, up to maybe 100% vegetarian. But it was just a minor point, but it's really with an impact on the environment and zoonosis.
Yes. So maybe the key word is too much. We are too close, too many. We eat too much meat, so everything is too much. We have to be careful in the end. So this is the end of this webinar. I would like to thank everyone for being so reactive, and a big thank you to the stakeholders who made this subject particularly interesting. It was really brilliant and bright of you, so thank you. Thank you for your time, for your presentations. And then I would like to say about La Nuit des Idées that the night isn't over yet. So for all the French speakers here or the French learners, that we have the Café Philo. So don't hesitate to join the discussion that is currently held. It explores the theme close, so proche, so the theme for La Nuit des Idées in a different way. So the question that is asked is, qui sont nos proches? Meaning, who are our close relatives? So you can join now, you can see the flyer on your screen, and you can join the debate right now. Thank you again, everyone, for participating. Thank you, Thierry and Stéphane. Thank you, Stéphanie, for the questions. And I would like to thank Wayan and Serge for your presentations and your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Merci. Terima kasih. Have a great night and goodbye, everyone. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank
Thanks,
you,
bye-bye.
Stefan.
Thank
Terima
you,
kasih Bapak
Stefan.
Wayan.
Thank you.
Terima kasih Bapak Serge.
Thank you, Thierry. Wayan, see you hopefully soon.
Yeah, see you in the Sukomodo summer course.
Exactly. I cross fingers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.